Hi there everybody, this is David, and I have been able to play Visions of Mana for about 2 or so weeks now, and I do want to send a big thank you to Square Enix for allowing me to have that opportunity in order to play this game in advance so I can share my impressions with y'all before the game releases, and I've got to say, this is the sequel that we deserve. The Mana series has definitely had its ups and its downs, and it is on an upward trajectory. This is not another Dawn of Mana. This is like another Trials of Mana or a Secret of Mana. This is a good Mana game, and I am so happy to come here and tell you all about it. And I do think that that is worth a sub as I try my hardest to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. With your help, your like, and your sub, I do know that I can get there. And also, the game is coming out this Thursday, August the 29th for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC, so you do not want to miss it, because this is like the game of the year, the action RPG of the summer, the RPG of the summer, whatever it is that you want to call it. This is definitely like in the top 10 best games of the year, at least. Whatever it is you want to call it, this one is good. So I personally have been playing the Mana series since I was a little kid. Since I got Final Fantasy Adventure back on the Game Boy, and back then I just thought it was just a Final Fantasy action RPG spinoff. Had no clue that it was part of the Mana series. Then I got Secret of Mana, fell in love with that on the SNES. Unfortunately, we never did get Seiken Densetsu 3 or Trials of Mana here in the US until that was translated quite recently. But we did get Dawn of Mana, which is the fourth mainline game, and then after Dawn of Mana hit, we really didn't see anything from the Mana series for a good 15 plus something years until the remakes of Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana came out. And whenever they went ahead and they wanted to start creating this game, they were like, hey, you know, we want to go back to the basics. We want to go back to what worked in the 90s. We want to go back to that golden age, which they have been doing with games like Star Ocean 2, Octopath Traveler 2, Dragon Quest Monsters the Dark Prince, Triangle Strategy, Star Ocean, The Divine Force. They've been doing that a lot lately. They've been going back and they've been kind of like a renaissance. They've been trying to revive the magic of the 90s, and I think that they're doing a really good job with that. So they were thinking, okay, well, we have these two great games back on the SNES. We have Secret of Mana and we have Trials of Mana, but what do we want the fifth, the next mainline game, to take after? Take after Secret or take after Trials? So they went ahead and they created the remakes of Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana, and because of the great reception that Trials of Mana had, breaking records and selling over 1 million copies, they were like, oh, that's the one. Trials of Mana. That is what we are going to take after. So here, I just want to talk a little bit about the differences between what Trials of Mana offers you and what Visions of Mana offers you, because I think the vast majority of y'all have played the Trials of Mana remake, so you know what that entails. In Trials of Mana, you have a possible 6 characters that you can choose from, but as far as who you can actually take in your party, you can only take 3. In Visions of Mana, you have 5 characters, and you can use them at any time that you want to. In Trials of Mana, you can do class changing, but only at the crystals. In Visions of Mana, you can class change at any time, and there's 40 class changes total, 8 for each character. It's not so limited like it was in Trials of Mana, where you have to like only do it at certain levels and only when you're at the crystal, and you can only go the light path or the dark path. Here you can pretty much class change whenever you want to into whatever class you want to, and they all play completely differently. In Trials of Mana, whenever you leveled up, you got some stat points, which would help you gain different abilities, which would also help increase your stats. But here, instead of doing stat points and things like that, you get ability seeds for customization. And these ability seeds are essentially ways to teach your characters even more spells, even more special moves, get more stat increases. So for example, you can change your class and you will learn, you know, the spells and the abilities from that class, and your stats will increase or decrease accordingly depending on which class you're in. But in addition to that, you can equip ability seeds, which will allow you to learn various spells. Like you can have an Undyne based class dealing with ice and all of that. And you can equip it with a fireball ability seed, so it has ice and fire. You can equip that class with a healing ability, so they're able to cast the healing spell as well. So you can really mix and match your characters. Not only can you create them into what class you want to, but you can use his ability seeds to further customize them, really just kind of making your party exactly what you need and what you want. Whereas in Trials of Mana, it was very linear and there was no side quests, Visions of Mana has tons of side quests, and they're good side quests. Some of them are go out there and, fight these monsters. Some of them are go out there and, I lost my hairpin or whatever. But some of them are really cool. Like, there's this one woman that you find who's trying to paint scenery, and she's like, hey, I have this great painting. Where can I find this scenery? And it's almost like the Chocograph side quests in Final Fantasy IX, where you have to find that location in the world and then show it to her and like, hey, here's the scenery. Go out and paint this. It's really cool. There's some great side quests here, and the side quests all build upon one another as well, and they contribute to the story too. Trials of Mana had some pretty bad voice acting. Charlotte immediately comes to mind. Oh my gosh, it was like I wanted to strangle her. It was like nails on a chalkboard. It was so bad. The voice acting, though, in Visions of Mana, it's definitely a step up. It is some great voice acting, although I will say, as far as a character that's kind of out of place, it is Karina. She has this southern accent, and nobody else in Longren in the Windvale has a southern accent, not even her parents. So it's just very odd for her to have this like really, really deep southern accent when both of her parents are talking completely normally. In Trials of Mana, there was no fast travel whatsoever. You had to run back over to the beach, call Vuskov, go wherever it is you needed to go to. But here in Visions of Mana, there was fast travel not only from the menu immediately, but also from the various meridians around. And you can use those meridians to travel to wherever you want to on the continent. And then another thing is that Trials of Mana had a very linear world, just little paths that you would go to, whereas Visions of Mana has a vast open field world. Lots of different things to see and do, lots of different things to explore, from the Nemesis monsters, who were like incredibly hard, but you can fight them and you can get their crystallized core, which you can turn in for extra ability seeds, to the Elemental Ares, which you can fight like a whole bunch of monsters in there under a time limit, and if you do, then you will get some extra rewards. There's tons of things to find and to do. It is not an empty open world. You'll even like stumble across various ruins. Like you'll be going through an area, you're like level 10 or 15 or whatever, and you'll see these cool ruins. You're like, oh, I want to go check that out. But there's like level 50 monsters in there, and you're like, oh, nope, I'm gonna come back for that. So I personally had to keep a little notebook, handy dandy notebook, next to me, basically keeping notes of, oh, hey, there's this, there's these ruins I want to go find, or hey, there's this Elemental Ares over here on the map that I want to go find. There's these little things that I want to poke around with and go back to. So I have been keeping track of that, and it reminds me of like things that I did as a child. Whenever I was a child, whenever the game didn't keep track of everything for me, I kept track of it in a notebook. So that's just something that I like to do. There's also a performance mode versus a graphics mode, as well as a difficulty selector. It is a lot of fun. Now I just want to talk about a little bit about the story. The story, you might think it's very bare bones and basic. Okay, Hina became an alm. She's going to go with Val. They're going to go to the mana tree. They're going to pick up the other alms. They're going to sacrifice their soul, kind of like in Final Fantasy X. But here it's different. Because in Final Fantasy X, it seems like nobody really knew about the pilgrimage, or at least Titus didn't really know about the pilgrimage because he was a moron. But here, everybody seems to know about the pilgrimage, and they're okay with it. But what you think is going to happen doesn't happen. This is full of plot twists and turns. This is an adult story dealing with love and loss and marriage and a lot of death. Like, this is not a little kiddie story. Don't worry about that. You are in for an adult story. You are in for a good time. There's so much to see and do, so much to explore. Exploration is encouraged because the only way to advance the elemental plot, which is how you change classes, is by exploring. You don't gain points on that through leveling up. You gain points on that by finding golden cloves, which you find when you're exploring. You gain points in that by gathering elementite at the various crystals around, which you find by exploring. So it really does encourage you to go back and explore everywhere. Visions of Mana is definitely in my top 10 games of the year. I cannot wait to tell you even more about it whenever it releases this Thursday. So do look forward to yet more videos coming out on my channel all about Visions of Mana. This is the week of Visions of Mana, the month of Visions of Mana. It's going to be all mana all the time, and I cannot wait to talk even more about this game. And all y'all out there, have a good day.